Previously on Dragon Ball Hakai. On Planet of the Gods, Gohan was trained by Yamoshi to be able to sense Divine Ki, and ends up discovering that the goal of his training was not only to learn to sense Ki, but also to master it and become a Super Saiyan God. Yamoshi explains to Gohan that the best method for this would be to face the gods themselves, and calls to help in his training 3 heroes, Supreme Kais, who faced Majin Buu in the past. They are Korak, the former Supreme Kai of the South, Shia, the former Supreme Kai of the West, and Goraisu, the former Supreme Kai of the North. Gohan's goal is to face these Kaioshins. However, they are much stronger than when they faced Majin Buu. So will Gohan be able to defeat them? Meanwhile, Piccolo and Pikkon went to Namek to ask the Dragon Balls to revive Piccolo Daimao so that Piccolo and his father could merge. The problem was that Piccolo Daimao did not accept the fusion peacefully and wanted to dominate Piccolo's mind. After a difficult mental struggle, Piccolo, with the help of Kami-sama, managed to overcome his father's evil influence and completed the fusion, thus becoming a complete Namekian. Will Piccolo now be able to continue the ritual to become a Namekian god?
Hakai.
Episode 30. A mortal wound. Will Gohan die? Piccolo and Pikkon arrive on the outskirts of the ruins of Zarama, crossing the wall of sand that marked the end of the Desert of Perdition storm. Pikkon has an ordinary face, but Piccolo looks a little tired. The leader of the Celestial Guardians praises the Namekian. "You really got stronger, Piccolo. You managed to get here without my help this time." Piccolo says, "Yes, my strength, both physical and mental, has increased a lot since becoming a complete being, but it was still quite difficult." "You didn't have such difficulties. You're really strong, Pikkon." In a hurry, Pikkon says, "Let's go inside at once. I'm curious what will come next." Piccolo and Pikkon enter through the mouth of the large golden dragon statue. Inside the ruins, as he walks through the halls with Pikkon, Piccolo is a little pensive. "Tell me, Pikkon, you told me earlier that you owed a huge debt to my race. What debt is this?" Pikkon doesn't understand the reason for the question. Is it relevant to talk about it now? But Piccolo insists, "Yes, it is. Whatever it is, it must be related to the fascination you have with these ruins. No one is willing to risk spending millennia in a desert like this without an extraordinary motivation. I want to know why you have this fascination with the creator of the Namekians." At Piccolo's insistence regarding his history, Pikkon decides to tell him. "I am originally from a planet called Buran. It was a very peaceful and prosperous planet in the Western Galaxy. But one day, a group of space pirates invaded my planet to take it. However, my people bravely resisted the attack and pressed these mercenaries to the point where they have to destroy my planet in order not to be killed in battle. Just before Buran exploded, my mother put me on a special ship and sent me off the planet. And when Buran exploded, only I survived of my race. After that, I was wandering around in space for a while. I don't know exactly how long it was, but it seemed like forever to me. When I thought I was about to die, I was lucky that my ship ended up crashing on Namek. The Namekians ended up finding my ship, and then they took me to the guru of the time, who took care of me as if I were his own son. In addition to giving me all the love a child could want, the Namekians also allowed me to train with members of the planet's warrior class, and that's when I discovered my great aptitude for battle. When I felt strong enough, I left Namek on a journey across the universe after the mercenary group that destroyed my planet. And after many years of journeying, I managed to kill them all. During this journey, I also became very powerful and acquired much fame at the time for having passed through many planets and accomplished many good deeds for them. Somehow, my fame reached the angels, and I was assigned to be the god of destruction of this universe, and my master was Mr. Whis. Piccolo asks, "And why did you want such a bloodthirsty role as being a god of destruction?" Pikkon replies, "I don't see this work as being bloodthirsty, but as fundamental work. You see, Piccolo, the excess of life inevitably leads to chaos and death. If you don't believe it, just imagine that even though there are so many different planets and civilizations, war is a common thing in practically all of them. Excess life causes the disturbance of peace, because thinking, living beings are unable to live in peace because of their disagreements. So that living beings do not completely destroy themselves, it is the function of the gods of destruction to erase some of these lives, so that the gods of creation can create them again from scratch, thus giving them a new chance." Piccolo is convinced by Pikkon's arguments. Piccolo says, "It's a dangerous thought, but it makes a little bit of sense." Pikkon continues his history. After I became immortal, I had more time to research many things, and I acquired a lot of knowledge, so naturally I also dedicated myself to studying about the race that created me. After I ended up dying and no longer needed to have the work and worries of a god, I was able to dedicate myself even more to my studies. When I discovered the whole relationship of the Namekian history with Zarama, one of the primordial beings, I was completely fascinated. And discovering that the ruins of Zarama were in this desert, I didn't think twice before venturing here, and I confess that I regret absolutely nothing. Piccolo and Paikon finally arrive at the Great Hall, where the mysterious wall that contains the information for the ritual is. Arriving before the wall, they become tense. Paikon says, "I hope this time it works out. If it doesn't, I won't know what else to do." But Piccolo, much more confident, says, "This time I'm absolutely sure I'm the complete version of myself. It'll work out." Piccolo approaches the wall and touches his hand to the writing he still hasn't deciphered. At Piccolo's touch, the written runes light up, exhaling an intense glow. The magic force takes Piccolo, who closes his eyes, and inside his mind begins to assimilate a lot of writings and images. After a few seconds, Piccolo no longer seems to be uncomfortable with that magical force consuming him, and then he remains motionless with his eyes closed. Paikon approaches and asks, worried, "Piccolo, are you okay?" "Yes, I am," the Namekian responds. Paikon asks curiously, "So did you discover anything?" Piccolo says, "Even though I don't know how to read these writings, I can understand them. Just like the first time. They're telling me about a test. 7 tests, actually." Paikon wants to know more. And what tests are those? Piccolo, as if reading something in his mind, begins to recite. To access the great god Zarama and inherit his divinity, defeat the 7 guardians of his 7 orbs, and acquire their understanding and power. After finishing reciting the information, Piccolo opens his eyes and walks away from the wall, but the runes are still lit. Still not understanding, Paikon asks, "What does that mean exactly? We have to find the Super Dragon Balls. Is that it? Never heard of guardians guarding them. This is very confusing." But Piccolo explains, "No, Paikon, these writings do not speak of the physical versions of the orbs as we know them. These writings speak of what is beyond the physical orbs. They speak of their essence. And the guardians I mentioned are definitely those figures that are inside the drawings of the orbs on this wall. From what I'm seeing, each orb has a guardian that I must defeat." But the explanation does not make Paikon less confused. "That's even harder. How are we going to get into the essence of the orbs to defeat the guardians?" Piccolo replies, "You won't be able to enter, but I will." The Namekian points his hand at the burning runes, and all the magical light in the writing is absorbed into his hand, forming a globe of light. Piccolo hurls this globe of light into the air, and a portal opens. This portal, in a few seconds, forms a great suction current that sucks Piccolo inside itself, making him disappear. Worried, Paikon yells for Piccolo as he approaches the portal and tries to enter as well. However, a strong magical force throws him away. Paikon gets up very angry. Paikon says, "Damn, where did he go?" Meanwhile, in the forest of the planet of the gods, as soon as he discovers that he will have to fight Korak, Shia, and Goraisu, Gohan begins to concentrate his power and releases his ultimate form, exhaling a white aura wrapped in light. After that, he makes his combat stance and says, "Supreme Kais, let's go." Korak, the former Supreme Kai of the South, just crosses his arms, showing no interest. Goraisu, the former Supreme Kai of the North, has no reaction, but remains attentive. Finally, Shia, the former Supreme Kai of the West, makes her combat stance. Shia says, "I'll go first." Shia flies at Gohan and starts to hit him. Gohan, without leaving the ground, just retreats and dodges the blows, and stays like that for some time. But in a moment, he dodges a punch from Shia and finds a gap in her guard, and then strikes her with a punch to the rib that makes Shia immediately stop attacking. Gohan lands an upward punch on Shia's stomach, which launches her into the sky, and then he moves so fast that he disappears from the ground and reappears to the sky above Shia, and lands a strong kick from top down on the back of the Kaioshin, who throws her hard against the ground, opening a hole in it. Even clearly shaken by the blows, Shia gets up, forms a key globe in her hands, and throws it at Gohan. He holds the attack with his hands without showing much difficulty. Shia sees Gohan hold back her attack, smiles and says, "Kai, Kai." Shia teleports to Gohan's back, and taking advantage of the fact that the Saiyan has his hands full holding her energy globe, she launches a kick towards the back of his neck that would certainly knock out Gohan, but is surprised when he simply removes one of his hands of the globe of energy and holds her foot. Shia, impressed, says, "What? It's impossible. Are you holding my energy with one hand?" Gohan smiles and says, "I'm sorry, Supreme Kai, but you fell into my trap." Grasping Shia's leg so she couldn't escape, Gohan with his other hand smashes the energy globe on Shia's body, launching the Kaioshin into the air along with her attack. And it doesn't take long for the globe to explode. Everyone watching is surprised by that. Yamoshi is the first to comment. Well, well, Gohan, surprise me now. Both for his cleverness in creating a false opening for Shia and for the brutal way he hit her at point-blank range with her own attack. Even though I said that the training is serious, I didn't imagine that he would start attacking like that. Goraisu, clearly disapproving Gohan's attitude, says, I still think he went too hard on that attack, but Korak seems to have a different opinion than the others, Supreme Kais. He did what needed to be done. This training is not a joke. His enemies will be 5 great celestial mages. After suffering the explosion in the sky, Shia falls to the ground. At first she appears to be unconscious, but then she starts to stir and cough. Shia looks at Gohan and smiles and says, You're good, Saiyan boy. You managed to deceive me well. Hearing that from Shia, Gohan is relieved. He thinks, I'm glad she's okay. I was afraid I had overdone it. At that moment, Goraisu takes a few steps forward and warns, Now I go. Goraisu flies at high speed towards Gohan and fires several blows at the Saiyan. Gohan dodges and blocks the attacks while analyzing the new opponent. He thinks, he's a little faster and stronger than the Supreme Kai I just fought. After spending a few seconds only on the defensive analyzing his opponent, Gohan slowly starts his offensive, now also counterattacking Goraisu's blows. As soon as Gohan starts attacking, Goraisu starts to get cornered, and in a few seconds he starts attacking less and defending more, until he can only defend himself. There comes a time when Goraisu is so cornered by Gohan's blows that he decides to use his power, and then he extends his 2 hands towards the mortal and pushes him using his telekinetic force. Opening Gohan's guard with his push, Goraisu fires a ki ball at the Saiyan, who easily dodges it, but Kai. Goraisu uses his Kai to appear behind Gohan and kicks the ball he dodges back at the Saiyan. Gohan immediately turns around and blocks the attack with his arms, but does not prevent the explosion from occurring very close to his face, blinding him for a split second. As soon as Gohan regains his sight, he doesn't see Goraisu and starts looking for the Supreme Kai, asking where is he. When Gohan realizes it, he notices Goraisu coming over him, making a sword appear in his hands and attacking him with a slash from top to bottom that would split him in half. But at that moment, Gohan joins his 2 hands, stopping Goraisu's sword inches from his forehead, even cutting off a strand of his hair, which scares the Saiyan. Yamoshi, watching all this, smiles in satisfaction. Looks like the training with the divine birds paid off. If Gohan hadn't felt Goraisu's ki at the last moment, he would definitely have been ripped in two. Gohan, scared, asks Goraisu, If I didn't stop that blow, would you really kill me? The Supreme Kai replies, Korak told me this was serious training, so I'm taking it seriously. If you can't survive a fight with me, you'll never survive the Celestial Mages. Feeling even more determined by Goraisu's response, Gohan performs a skillful move that spins the sword in Goraisu's hands and escapes them, then throws the sword away. And then he lands a hard punch to Goraisu's stomach and takes his breath away. While Goraisu is stunned by his blow, Gohan crosses both hands on his forehead and rapidly creates energy as he performs a deft somersault that brings him above Goraisu, and then shouts, Masenko! Before Goraisu could react, he is hit on by the wave of yellow energy and is quickly carried to the ground, hitting the ground with great violence and being buried in it. Shia is impressed by that, but Korak maintains a neutral expression. After a few seconds, Goraisu flies out to the crater that had just opened on the ground. He's injured, but nothing serious. Gohan descends to him and the two meet in the sky. Gohan, in a cordial gesture, praises the god. You fought very well, Supreme Kai. Thank you for your sincerity during the fight. It helped me to take this training even more seriously. The Supreme Kai, despite his pain, also praises the mortal. You also fought well, boy. I spared no effort in this fight. Yamoshi looks at Korak, who continues with his arms crossed, watching everything. Will you fight him? Korak replies, Not yet. He will still need to evolve a little more before he can face me. Shia says, Then I'll go again. Shia flies to Goraisu's side and stands before Gohan along with her Kaioshin companion. Yamoshi says to his disciple, Gohan, you handled the first stage of the training well. Now you should be able to face both at the same time. Gohan is in shock. What? Both? His master confirms. Yes. Fighting two gods, you will be forced to feel their ki much better, as your common senses will be limited. Despite his fear, Gohan agrees. Alright then, let's go. At the same time, Goraisu and Shia charge at Gohan with a series of blows. The Saiyan begins to retreat into the sky while blocking their attacks with great difficulty. In a moment, Gohan manages to find a gap in the attack of the two and, forming two spheres of ki in his hands, shoots one at each god. The Kaioshin defends but ends up being removed by the force of the energy. After pulling them away, Gohan immediately flies towards Shia and lands a strong punch in the face of the goddess, and that launches her between the trees of the forest, and then turns to block a strong punch from Goraisu, who says, Can you feel me getting closer again? Very good. Gohan and Goraisu begin to exchange blows when suddenly the Saiyan feels something on his back, and by reflex, he dodges and sees Goraisu's sword passing just above his head. ending up in the Kaioshin's hand thanks to his telekinetic powers. With his sword in hand, Goraisu begins to attack Gohan with several slashes, finding a gap in the attacks. Gohan intercepts an attempt to cut, hitting Goraisu with a kick in the belly that drives him away. And when he thinks about advancing against the Kaioshin, he notices something approaching and turns to dodge a strong kick from Shia that it would hit him right in the middle of the face. Gohan is impressed with himself. Gohan says, "It's amazing. I can feel their ki better and better." Shia and Gohan begin exchanging blows, and then Goraisu joins Shia, trying to slash Gohan with his sword. The Earthling Saiyan defends himself and dodges the two's attacks, and counterattacks as best he can. At one point he manages to land a punch in the face of Goraisu, but also receives a punch from Shia in that face. Then retaliates Shia with a punch in the face, but receives a cut from Goraisu on the arm. Retaliates with a kick in the belly of Goraisu, but receives a flying kick from Shia in the ribs, and then knocks Shia away with a kick. Tired, he thinks, "Damn, it's too hard to fight both of them at once." Gohan sees Goraisu coming with everything to run him through with his sword. But when he is about to react, Shia extends her hand towards Gohan and paralyzes him with his telekinetic force. What? No! Goraisu hits Gohan, slicing through his chest. Gohan, suffocated, moans softly as he lets his blood out of his mouth, and as he loses his strength, his eyes closed. This is terrible. Gohan was mortally wounded by Goraisu's sword. Could this dangerous training be the end of Gohan? What about Piccolo? Where did he go after being sucked into that strange portal? Who are the 7 guardians he mentioned? Find out in the next episodes of Dragon Ball Hakai.